Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Star Rail, where the new banners for Boothill and, of course, the rerun banner for Fu Xuan and their light cones as well have just gone live in the game. I'm fresh out of the shower, and we're going to talk about them here in today's video. How good are these characters? Could they be worth it for your account? So let's take a quick little look. First of all, let's look at the tier list, actually, just to give you a first initial sense, and then I'll break each of them down individually and what I think about them and whether I'd recommend them to a new player or a long-term player, to someone that's a free-to-play player, or someone who's a spender. You know, where do they fall in those? So for Memory of Chaos, we can see Boothill, brand new. He's coming in at tier 0.5 in the Apex character section. So he is very, very highly rated for Memory of Chaos as a damage dealer that's focused around break. Fu Xuan, she's up in tier 0 of the sustain. So she's absolutely top tier sustain. If we jump over to Pure Fiction, Fu Xuan is 0.5 in the tier, so a little bit weaker for Pure Fiction, but still insanely good. Boothill really drops all the way down to tier 4 into niche. Pure Fiction is very much focused around AoE, breaking, or not breaking, but killing multiple characters at multiple enemies at the same time. And Boothill is quite single target focused, in fact, entirely single target focused. So he's not going to thrive there. There may be some occasional really break focused ones, maybe like Topaz. It's actually pretty good for some of the follow-up ones, even though she's really single target. So there's a maybe he'd be okay, but it's certainly not going to be his forte at all. Incredibly niche, maybe not even useful at all there. And of course, one thing that's not on this tier list to bear in mind is we do have another mode coming in the next major patch. So in, what, like 3 weeks or so, I suppose, which is the Apocalyptic Shadow, which is going to be a more boss focused mode. So even more single target. And guess what? In that context, Boothill is going to be even better. So we're going to have Apocalyptic Shadow being really single target focused, Memory of Chaos being a bit of a mix. You've got some AoE, some single target, kind of both are important. It depends on the particular encounters. Then Pure Fiction, which is more AoE. Boothill is definitely over on the other side of that, where he's much more about the Apocalyptic Shadow, Memory of Chaos side, and not so much about Pure Fiction. Fu Xuan is going to be great for everything, though. Let's talk about her, because she is a much more known quantity. And yeah, it's a fairly simple, fairly simple thing to recommend. So, Fu Xuan is a sustain type character, and typically speaking, it's often recommended to pick up 2 of the limited sustain characters to try boost up your account. But you can be a little bit slower in terms of when you do that. So for example, for me, I've actually picked up Aventurine, all right, who is Preservation. And I personally think it's a fairly decent idea to try get 1 good Preservation and 1 good Abundance. That's going to give you more flexibility on your account than going for, let's say, 2 Abundance or 2 Preservation. Now, that's, you know, more speculative, but it's still something that's worth bearing in mind. For me, I've picked up Aventurine because I have Robin. I've now picked up Topaz. I've got a lot of follow-up characters, so he fits in really well for me. So if you started playing and you actually picked up Aventurine recently, which is the situation I'm in, I don't think that Fu Xuan, although she's absolutely top tier, is a massive priority. I don't think she's a massive priority because Aventurine is going to be a better sustain for your follow-up teams if you're building around. You know, if you got the free Doctor ratio, you picked up Aventurine or Robin. Aventurine fits better into those follow-up teams than Fu Xuan does. What does she do well? Well, she is just, again, a preservation unit, so she's very good at keeping you alive. She in particular brings a crit rate buff to your team and brings them CC protection, immunity from CC, for the first time crowd controls attempts to be applied to your team. Which is, like, that's very generally useful, right? There's tons of types of characters that need crit rate. There's lots of encounters that try to crowd control your characters, so they're both very good general effects, right? She also fits well as a quantum character into mono quantum teams. So if, let's say, you picked up Sparkle, that was a while ago now, but that's something to consider. But yeah, that's sort of my vibe, though. For me, I'm not looking for Fu Xuan, personally, because I did pick up Aventurine. I've got the follow-up team. I have, what, E3 Bailu, and even though she's not the best, you can see my Memory of Chaos run, she is keeping people alive. She's doing the job. Fu Xuan would definitely be better, but I think there's other bigger upgrades that I can get for my account right now. And bearing in mind as well, we are do a Hua Hua rerun at some point, and there will be other new sustain characters in the future. But let's say you are a brand new character, you don't have Aventurine. That means you've got no limited 5-star preservation character. In that situation, I'd say Fu Xuan actually becomes extremely valuable, and I would highly recommend that you get her. It's a really safe investment. She's going to be so strong for so many of your teams. Unless you hate the character, there's no question that she is going to be a good addition to your teams, right? She's really, really good. So that's sort of where we are with that one. Again, if you've got, let's say, Hua Hua and Luocha, it's sort of up to you. You don't necessarily need these preservations. It's a good thing to get eventually, but you might wait for the next preservation unit, or you might wait for until you start running into fights where you really start to struggle. Another thing that is worth mentioning, you might have the Bailu. That's where I'm at with Aventurine. You also might want to be building break teams. So these are with, Boothill, and Firefly, who's coming soon, is looking to be a break character as well. Well, Gallagher, he is a sustain. He's only 4-star. He definitely needs Eidolons to be good, but you can pick some up from character selectors and stuff like that, and you might get lucky. He is very, very, very strong in break teams. He synergizes particularly well with the... over here in Specialist, with the Harmony Trailblazer, the imaginary Trailblazer, which everyone gets for free through the storyline. They make your break. Whenever you break enemies, you start doing super break damage, which is a ton of damage. And Gallagher scales off of break, so he does massive super break damage. So he's actually moving up this tier list, and that is something that's really worth considering as well. As we are moving in to talk about Boothill, okay, Fu Xuan, she's very general. But you might, again, let's say you started playing during the Aventurine banner, and you've picked up Robin, and you've picked up the free Dr. Ratio, and you're going, well, I've got Aventurine. You might still have a lot of passes left, and you might be looking to pick up Boothill or Firefly. Or, we're suspecting for sure that Ron May is due a rerun soon, that this break meta could be a team type that you want to build into. Well, Fu Xuan's going to be good for that, but Gallagher might be even better, potentially for those break teams. So that's something to consider as well. But look, I think you can't, like I said, you can't really go wrong with her. She is a great character. There's no question. I've seen some people say she's the best character in the game. So yeah, you can't go too far wrong with her. She's going to have long-term usefulness wherever you need a preservation character, of course, and particularly against enemies that do lots of crowd control. She's very nice by protecting you from that. And she's also going to have long-term usefulness as the premier quantum sustain for mono quantum teams, which is you're kind of building around Silver Wolf, implanting quantum weaknesses, and that could be a good generalist team as well. But there's Fu Xuan. Let's talk about Break and Boothill. So Boothill, as I said, he's all about that single target physical breaking, right? So the Break team is coming in big, and for a new player, this is definitely something to look at. We've just had a slew of follow-up attack characters with Aventurine, Robin. We just had the Topaz rerun, and of course we had, where is he? He's probably up here. Yeah, there he is. Of course, the free Dr. Ratio, which is now gone. But there's been a whole push of really strong follow-up characters recently. Now it's looking like we're going to have a whole bunch of break characters with, like I said, Boothill, Firefly's looking to be break. We're expecting the Ron May rerun, and now we've got the imaginary Trailblazer. So if you are a brand new player, you could, I think, realistically pick up both. It's not going to do you too badly. Like, if you start during this banner, both of these characters are absolutely worth picking up. The only downside is, again, you might want to save up, though, for the next banners. Like, let's say it is, as people are suspecting, Firefly and Ron May coming in the next set. That might be a consideration. Firefly is Destruction. So Destruction are very much tailored for Memory of Chaos, and they can do okay in Pure Fiction as well. Now, as you can see, the Destruction damage dealers are definitely overshadowed in Pure Fiction. So we'll see. She may or may not be good there, but she's certainly going to be amazing for Memory of Chaos, most likely, and good for the boss mode. So quite a similar role to Boothill. They do have different damage types, so that is important, right? Boothill, here's actually something that I think is worth making clear. Boothill, he can implant physical weakness. You'll see that if you do his aptitude showcase. He can implant physical weakness. Can I see his character? Maybe over here. Can I see him if I click into it? Yeah, there we go. Ultimate. Applies physical weakness to an enemy for 2 turns. This means that he is able to break no matter what, right? Now, here's the thing though. Enemies, if they don't have physical weaknesses, they might have a resistance to physical damage. And this will be true. I imagine that this is going to be something that's fairly common for break type characters because, like, if you cannot break the enemy, their whole kit basically doesn't work. You need to break for their things to do stuff, right? So he needs to break enemies to start boosting up his damage. He does more damage to enemies that are broken, etc. That's really important. So he is able to implant physical weakness, but you might be fighting an enemy that has a ton of physical resistance, which means that his damage is not going to be crazy, right? So this doesn't make him the best of the best against every single enemy. It lets you brute force to a certain extent. If they don't have much physical resistance, he's still going to rip them apart, but there will still be some enemies where you don't want this. So that is something to consider for the break teams. It is still going to be good. If they're like Boothill, Boothill's great for this, guys. He is really general because he can apply the physical weakness, but he's not going to be best in slot for every single enemy. You are still going to want a variety. So that's something worth considering. I would say that obviously the Harmony Trailblazer is key to a lot of these break teams. Ron May, if she comes back, is probably pretty ideal, right? This is going to be her first rerun. It could be a long time till she comes back again. She boosts up break teams to an absolutely immense level. So if you are looking to build break, I would actually be prioritizing the Ron May rerun, which might come in the next month, yeah, over going for Boothill or Firefly. You could, if you love them, pick them up on their reruns. You can always run like a 4-star breaking character, like Shui Yi is decent if they're Quantum Weak. She's okay if they're not, but you know, Quantum Weak, or you've got Xu Shang even. Like, they're obviously not as good, but they are usable. And that's something that I think is worth considering. I think the harmony is more important. Ron May delays their turns when they're broken. She boosts your speed. She just really makes these break teams a lot more powerful. And again, I haven't mentioned Firefly too much, but Firefly is looking to be a fire break type character, which is more rare actually than Boothill. So for Boothill, you do have Xu Shang, who's a physical hunt. And you even have, where are they? Luca, who's, again, a physical break, but more about the dots and the bleeds. You do have some kind of single target physical characters in there. The fire characters, though, are, well, Gwenithan is more dot. She's very different. Yeah, you've got Hook. It's sort of the alternative to Firefly is kind of bad, honestly. So fire DPS maybe is a little bit more limited. So that's something that you might want to consider as well. Also, Firefly as fire does synergize really well with Gallagher. If they're both around break, they're both around fire, bam, you've got a really good team. So that's sort of my thoughts on it. Boothill, I think he's obviously extremely strong. He's going to be great for Apocalyptic Shadow. I think the character is super cool. But if I want to build around break, which seems like a great thing to do for a newer player right now, or anyone who's got lots of pulls at the moment in these patches, can pick up things like Ron May, Imaginary Trailblazer, Boothill, Firefly, etc., and any characters like that come in the future. Boothill, he's really good, but I'd put Ron May as number 1, and then probably Firefly. We'll see, but Firefly is probably going to be a bit stronger than him. Now, here is the thing. If you are uncertain at this point, the good news is you don't need to pull them right away. You can wait till near the end of this, and by then we will have a live stream showing off Firefly, and also showing off Jade, who's the next new limited 5-star character that's coming as well. We'll have a live stream showing them off, so you'll see exactly what they do. We'll have showcases by that point as well. You'll probably have lots and lots of comparisons on all of the big YouTube channels comparing Boothill to Firefly, and we'll break it down in more detail. And you will also know for sure who the rerun characters are going to be. So you will know before this banner ends how good Firefly is, whether Ron May is being rerun, so you can make that decision then, right? So for example, you can wait to the end of the banner and go, oh wow, there isn't a Ron May rerun coming for a while. I can, I'm more willing to spend my stuff now, so because I'll have time to save for Ron May. Or maybe, yes, Ron May is coming in 20 days and 2 hours, like 21 days or whatever. I really need to save for Ron May. That'll be my thoughts on that. So there you go, guys. Yeah, it's a tough one. Like there's no question these are both really good characters, but you got to consider what's best for your account. So again, for me personally, I didn't actually mention about break. I'm personally going to skip break entirely. I talked about that a little bit when I was pulling for Topaz. There you go. You see, I'm working on Topaz right now. But as you can see from my team on the right hand side, I am kind of going for the follow up thing. 'Cause if you are a lower spender, right? Well, I mean, let's. I don't know. Am I still lower spend? I had to spend $35 to get Topaz. Does that even qualify as low spend? That's probably mid spend by this point. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. I don't know what the levels are in Honkai. I feel like that's probably maybe more mid spend at this point. But for me, I'm definitely building more into follow up, right? I also do have hyper carry teams because I've got a Sparkle, and that would go really well at Fu Xuan. So it's a bit of a bummer to skip her. But I've got Sparkle and like Jing Yuan. I could even build into Dot because I started playing during Black Swan and I picked up Black Swan. Now, she doesn't synergize with too many of my 5 stars that well. She just go really well with Robin, but Robin sadly sort of invested into the follow-up sides on MOC and Pure Fiction now, so it's hard to actually run her with Black Swan, but it is there as an option, right? So I've got potential to build Dot teams. I've got strong potential for hyper carry teams, and with Ting Yun as well, right? I've got hyper carry. I now have follow-up teams as well, very much. Building into break, as well as that. Building into destruction characters as well. Like, we are starting to, I think, invest too broadly at that point, and it becomes really difficult. So I think it can be worthwhile to narrow things down. So for me, I'm going for more follow-up stuff and hyper carry, and maybe a bit of Dot. They're sort of my 3 things to focus on. They're the characters I'm looking for to have those more built up. Now, I can do like a little bit of breaking stuff. Like I can run Imaginary Trailblazer. I'll probably build up my Shui Yi. I've been talking about really wanting to build her up. We got her E6 from the Topaz and Robin banners, so we can totally do it. It's possible. But yeah, look, you can't spread yourself too thin. So for me, I'm thinking of skipping break mostly entirely. Which might mean skip. I might pick up Ranmei anyway because she's so good, but my goodness, I have so many good Harmony characters. It mightn't actually be the best decision for me, which is insane to say. That's sort of my situation, right? From when I started playing and the banners that I've been able to complete. Again, for you as a newer player, it might be different. So like we've just missed the follow-up stuff. Again, if you're slightly newer than me, even only slightly, I started during Black Swan. You would not have Black Swan if you started after that banner. You probably don't have any Dot units, so Dot teams are not something you're looking to do at all. In which case, you might be going follow up and break. These are my best 2. And in that case, you really do want to be considering, like I said, Firefly, Boothill, Ranmei, etc. as being very, very strong options. Let me know what you guys think. That's sort of where we're at. For me, I'm skipping break, so the next wall is not too interesting for me, unfortunately. I am considering Ranmei as maybe just being so good that it might be worth picking her up. And again, we could have another team-wide Harmony in the next while that might be focused on, let's say, Dot. And if I picked up that character to build a Dot side for like Pure Fiction or MOC or whatever, I might find that my Ranmei then would just be sitting on the sidelines and not used that much. I don't know. That's a tough... Anyway, lots of thoughts there. Let me know what you think about all of this. Are you pulling on these banners? Boothill, I do feel like he's been done a little bit dirty, being put before a potential Ranmei rerun and Firefly, who's extremely hyped up. But I think he does seem like a really good character. I love his design. So I think if you really want Boothill, do not feel bad about going for Boothill. He's going to be a beast as well. And yeah, that's sort of how I feel about those. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.